Here in Los Angeles, we are intimately familiar with collective trauma, earthquakes and mudslides, heat waves and wildfires. But the size and scope of the COVID-19 pandemic has tested even this resilient metropolis. We have not all suffered equally since the World Health Organization declared a pandemic a year ago Thursday, but we have all suffered. And if we've been spared the worst, if we have kept our jobs and our loved ones are healthy, there's still a price. To be lucky in LA is to be isolated and lonely. It's the horrendous loss of life, the horrendous loss of livelihood, and the symbolic losses as well, said Roxane Cohen Silver, a professor at UC Irvine who studies how people respond to collective crises. It's the pain of missing senior year of high school and sporting events, shrinking children's birthday parties into Zoom windows, delaying going off to college and postponing weddings and other celebrations. Everyone has their own terrible story, she said. Over the last 12 months it's become increasingly clear that LA and other parts of California were ideal targets for the novel coronavirus. The state implemented some of the most extreme restrictions in the country, closing schools, restaurants, sports venues and more last March, but it could not stave off deadly surges that so far have killed more than 54,000 in California, 22,000 of them in Los Angeles County. At the same time, we bore witness to a barrage of other emotionally wrenching events both locally and nationally, the videotaped killing of George Floyd by police and the protests that followed, some of the largest wildfires in California's recorded history, surging homicide rates, the storming of the Capitol by an insurrectionist mob and a rise in anti-Asian hate crimes. Along the way, the virus itself changed, creating new variants. The experience of crisis upon crisis was so universal that Silver and her colleagues came up with a name for it. We call it cascading collective trauma, she said. It's almost too much to bear. Scientists who study the effects of trauma on individuals and society are already assessing the ongoing natural experiment that is the pandemic. Research into past traumas suggests that society will rebound even from this. But that day is still far off. Here in Southern California, many of our usual salves were taken from us. Parks and beaches were closed for months, gathering with anyone from another household was not officially permitted until early October and then banned again just 8 weeks later, and when the fires were at their worst, the polluted air made it difficult to even take a walk around the block, one of the few pleasures that had remained. If we lived alone and followed the county's strict public health orders, we celebrated Thanksgiving, Christmas and New Year's Eve in the solitude of our homes. The most cautious among us may not have hugged anyone in 12 months. L.